say over something that I've said in previous years.
I love when you say things.
But, I have a hoisafa to make. And I think that the hoisafa is kedai. It's kedai, the hoisafa, in order to say over the whole shir. I'll start with the hoisafa, because I think the hoisafa is a good place to start with. The kasha is, why was it necessary for Yaakov Avinu to spend 20 years by Lavan? I think it's a basic question. Why did he have to go through that? Nothing happens for no reason. I mean, Bnei Yisrael had to be in Mitzrayim and the Kor Barzel for a reason, to become Am Yisrael. Well, why was it necessary? What midah did Yaakov have to work on that he should spend 20 years in the house of the irony is amazing. I mean, Yaakov's midah is emes, and he has to spend 20 years with Lavan Ha'arami, and not only that, Yaakov has to tell Rachel that I'm his brother Biramoyis. What did he need that for? This is a verse from the Shem Yishmuel. The Shem Yishmuel says that Parshas told us, we say Yaakov was Ish Tom. Ish Tom. What's a Tom? I mean, Taich Tom is perfect, complete. But we also know there's another Taich for Tom, right? There's the Tom from the Haggadah. Tom means simple-minded, right? Feeble-minded, even. What is it? Mazois, right? That's the question of the Tom. So, I mean, is that what Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov was the Tom. I mean, I like the complete one a little better, right? You'd rather go with that. But there's a Gemara. The Gemara in Chulin, there's other Gemaras like this. The Gemara in Chulin says in the pasuk, Adam uvehema teshi Hashem. So like the Gemara, there's Adam ubehema. What's Adam ubehema? Adam ubehema is elu b'nei Adam sharumim b'das. Nasa, I forgot the exact lashon. Nasa asam kebehema. Right? There's people. These are the people that are very smart. Say the Hanochash Hayarum. Arum is very sharp, very smart. But when it comes to Hashem, they make themselves as if they're behemoths. They have no das. There's a midah. There's a certain midah. We'll call it tmimus. And that midah is, when it comes to certain inyanim, there's no cheshbainis. You just do what Hashem wants. Because, very often we find throughout, I think this is actually a theme throughout the whole Torah, you find a lot of people mess up, a lot of people slip up when they start to make too many cheshbainis. I think there's a mahalach, that's why Adam Rishon ate from the Eitz Hadas. I saw the Dor HaFloga, their cheshbainis. They tried to do Kairach Hidua, the famous Rashi. Where did Kairach mess up? He saw that Shmuel Navi was going to come from him. So many times we find that the person, the mistake that a person makes, is he makes too many cheshbainis. The midah of tam, tamimus, or tom and tiyem Hashem alekecha, like the Vayaitzai says over there in Parshas Kairach, is not to make cheshbainis. And even if you're smart enough to make the cheshbainis, no cheshbainis. You do whatever was state, and that's what you do, and that's it. And even if the cheshbon makes it that you should do something, no. Tamim tiyem Hashem alekecha. He says Yaakov had perfected his midah of tmimus, but it wasn't perfect yet. Why? Because kidua, when there are times, and there are times in a person's life when he has to make cheshbainis. He has to analyze. He has to figure out if what he's doing is the ratzon. He has to use that midah that Hashem gave him, his seichel that he has, in order to know if what he's doing is what he's supposed to be doing, which would l'chayra be a steer to that midah of tmimus. But it has to be used. Sometimes every midah that there is, a person should be able to be used in the right way. So in order to perfect this midah of tmimus, this is the cheshbon was, he has to go to Lavan, and he has to use his, let's call it the Ramoyis aspect of whatever that, he has to use his brain and trick Lavan. And if he can sit there by Lavan for 20 years and use this midah of Ramoyis, and if he can be there for 20 years and come out of Lavan's house with his tamimus still intact, because kiyadua, the surroundings that a person sits in is mashpi on him. If he can do that, if he can come out of Lavan and still be in the same madreg of tamimus that he was before that's the vice, or that shows that his mid of Tmimus is perfect. And he says that's why Yaakov Avinu had to be in love by Lavan for 20 years, to use his mid of Ramoyis, but to be finished with Lavan and still have his mid of Tmimus intact. And Ken Zain, I don't know if this was his, he brings the Rashi. Rashi says in Parshas Vayishlach that he says this is pshat that im Lavan garti v'tareg mitzvah shamarti. I want to be ma'asav. It says the Rashi over there says v'loy lamadati mima'asav aroyim, and all the Mefarshim ask, what tareg mitzvah shamarti? So why do I have to? What's v'loy lamadati mima'asav aroyim? And Ken Zain the teretz is that yes, I was by Lavan tareg mitzvah shamarti, and I was not mushba from his mid of Ramayis, even though I had to deal with him with that Ramayis. Yaakov came complete, perfect, after the whole Maisa. This is why Yaakov had to be by Lavan. It was to perfect his Tamimus. And the perfection came by him having to use the opposite of the mid of Tamimus. And when he's finished using that mid, that opposite of the mid of Tamimus, still have the original Tamimus that he started off with. This is the Vart from the Shem Yishmul. And I think that it's a good sushtel to what I said a different year, in that the Medrash Tanchuma says at the beginning of the Parsha, Vayaitzai, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, HaHoyreg as a nefesh b'shkaga lahechan hoya goyla, Kach shon Rabbi Seinu, HaHoyreg nefesh b'shkaga goyla la'arei miklat. V'Yaakov Avinu gala l'charon. That's a Medrash Tanchuma. Says someone who's hoyreg as a nefesh b'shkaga, he goes to Ari Miklat, and where does Yaakov go? Yaakov goes to Char. And then he says he's boirech, but nafsha, he's afraid Esau is going to kill him. What does that mean? Yaakov Avinu, it seems like Yaakov Avinu was hoyreg as a nefesh b'shkaga. I mean, our understanding is Yaakov was running away from Esau. What does it mean? Why is the Medrash Tanchuma telling too that killing b'shageg? So Gedal Yishar says that there was on a certain level Yaakov was hoyreg b'shkaga. Who did he kill? He killed Esau's ruchnius. Why? Because Yaakov had the ability to be mashpia on Esau l'toiv, and he didn't do that. Therefore, on a certain level, on a certain darga, he was considered a hoyreg nefesh b'shkaga, and therefore he had a certain level of galus that he had to go into.
Why don't you just do that again with Dina?
So the kash is what, Dina, right? What are it's a big question, right? We have in Parshas Vayishlach, V'yasachad Asar Yoladav, right? Dina Heichen Hais, he put her in a box, and he hid her because he didn't want her to marry Esau. So, Kidua, Rav Elchanan said, right? Rav Elchanan says there was a big machlokes, I don't know machlokes, but there's a exchange of letters between Rav Elchanan and the Chazon Ish regarding if the Olam HaTorah should be mischaber with certain characters in the New Medina, or was before the Medina, and certain issues and certain levels they weren't sure if they should join up with them. Maybe there would be a tayalis with that, and Rav Chanan was fire against it. And the Chazon Ish wrote him back in a letter that certain things, certain times, everything has to be maybe it's good. You see that maybe we can influence them l'toiv. You see that Yaakov was punished for Dina, and Rav Chanan writes back to him that whole parasha needs a beer. But anytime someone has a daughter, he should look for like a Russia, just marry off your daughter to a Russia, especially if she's a big tzaddikus and you know that he should be machzim l'mutav. That does that make any sense? He says there's a bar tenura, and the bar tenura says that Yaakov Avinu knew that Dina would be able to be machzim l'mutav, and he didn't want that to happen. He didn't want it. And Rav Elchanan says you could shtel tzu. There's a Rambam that says that certain Rishonim, sometimes Hashem takes away their ability to do tshuva. It's a pella, right? Yaakov could have done something. Dina could have been machzer esav l'mutav, but Yaakov knew that it wasn't even a suffix. He wasn't putting Dina into any matzav of sakana. She would have done it. He would have been fine. He would have been I don't know, tzaddik or whatever. I don't know what you call him. I'm not sure, but Zok Rav Elchanan, Yaakov didn't want to do it. He got punished for it also. He got punished for it too. And similarly, to the end of Parashat Vayishlach, Timnah. Timnah was the daughter of from one of the Chayri, one of the big nobles over there, and she wanted to join up with Avram to be part of the family of Avram, and they pushed her away. They pushed her away, and she says, I'm going to marry Eliphaz. Better I should be a Pelegish to Eliphaz from anyone else. And you see what came out of her was Amalek. And it's mashma, and there's a pasuk, I forgot the pasuk in Yev, it's mashma, there was a certain taina on the others that they didn't take Timnah. But at the same time, you see what come out of Timnah, it's Amalek. And in the psukim, it's very clear that Timnah, the incest and the arayas that where Timnah came from, it was just, that didn't pass for her to become part of Klal Yisrael, but even still there was a taina on them. Or maybe you could say the same Yisai, that for some reason, for some cheshbon, they didn't want Timnah, even if they were going to get punished for it. They weren't willing to take Timnah. Rav Dalisha says that the reason why Yaakov didn't want to be machzer Esav Lemutov was because he knew that maybe he could be machzer Esav Lemutov and they could live together, but he didn't know what was going to be by the kids, by the children. And just because Esav does tshuva doesn't mean that it's going to mean that his kids are also going to be fine. As we see that Yishmael, we know Yishmael did tshuva, and we're still suffering from the Bnei Yishmael till today. So just because Yaakov can make Esav a Baal Tshuva doesn't mean that L'dairis, that they're the kids, if Yaakov's man, it's his brother, they're all going to live together. If our families and Esav's families through the Dairis live together, he doesn't know what Nisayan that's going to be for the kids, and therefore Yaakov chose not to be Machzer Esav L'mutav, and therefore he had to go into Golus, and Dinah gets taken by Shechem because of this cheshbon that Yaakov Avinu made. See, Yaakov is using this is, I think, back to that original Yisai. Yaakov is using, this is not Tmimus. He's not going into this Yaakov Ishtam. Yaakov is making a cheshbon. At face value, you have a brother, he's off the derech, you have to be machzim l'mutav. Yaakov is making a cheshbon, right? Because sometimes you can't go between us. Sometimes you have to make the cheshbon. Yeah. And sometimes you make a cheshbon and you know that you're going to get petched for it because Yaakov Avinu got punished for what he did. But he held that the nisayin of him being him making Esav about tshuva, the nisayin that his kids are going to have is not worth it. So, all right, this is Yaakov Avinu's cheshbon. When Yaakov goes at the beginning of the parsha, he goes out, he's running, he's going into Galus because of his decision not to be mashpi on Esav, and he has a cholim. And what's the cholim? He sees a sulam, a ladder. And who's going up the ladder? The Malachei Elikim. There's one pshat that says that who are these malachim? These malachim were the malachim from Parshas Breishis, the malachim Sham Chazayin Azal, who came down onto this world because they saw what was going on, and Hashem said to them that they said to Hashem, "Look what's going on! Don't you remember we said Ma'anash Kisis Kirenu, and you should destroy them?" And Hashem said, "What's going to be with the world?" They said, "There's very, very Shmak Lashon in the Yalkut Shemaini." Listen to what they said. Listen to what they said. They said, "Amalei." They said, "Let us go down. We'll go down." Amalei. Hashem said to them, "Goli v'yadu lefanei matim shurim ba'aretz hayishel bechem yitzahara v'yisem kashim ibnei adam." You'll be worse than the bnei adam. Amalei. They said to Hashem, "Ten lanu rishus v'nadir mabriyos v'tirei echonu mekachim shemecha." Let us go down. Give us a chance, and you'll see how we're going to be mekadosh Shem Shemayim. All right. Amalei redu v'taduri mohem miyad kilkaluim b'nois ha'adam. So this is what did these malachim? What did they ask from Hashem? What did they ask? They asked that they should be given the nisayin, and they said, and "You'll see how we'll be mekadosh your name." And now, according to I think it's the Rosh brings down that these were the malachim that were going up the ladder. They had to stay down, and now they were being given the opportunity to go back to Shemayim, but they were also Yordim. They tried to get up, and Hashem was chayvet them down. I think that's the lashon over there in the Rosh. That they weren't even allowed up even then. So, Ken Zayin, why was Yaakov shown this right now? Because Yaakov made a decision. What was his decision? I'm not going to be mashpi on Esav because I don't want my children to have that nisayin. And Yaakov was probably not exactly sure if it was the right decision, is it the wrong decision. It was probably a very, very hard decision that he had to make. But what does Hashem show? What's the vision? He says a little bit of a nechama as he's going out. You see what happens when people ask for nisayin, right? The malachim asked for the nisayin, and they're still stuck here on earth. I think at that time it was 1,000 years later, not yet, but they're still, and they weren't even allowed back up into Shemayim. A little bit of an nechama that maybe Yaakov Avinu needed at the time to know that maybe his decision wasn't totally, I don't know, whatever the decision was, that maybe he was right in his decision that he made. All right. Shabbos.